On April 35th, Megan celebrated her birthday. Before 8 in the morning, the doorbell chimed. I was brewing coffee in the kitchen when Megan answered the door herself. She paused in the hallway upon returning, prompting me to inquire about her well-being. To my surprise, she stood there with a large bunch of red roses without any accompanying card or sender's name. Inside the bouquet, a small envelope bore her name, but it was empty. Her expression conveyed uncertainty over who the sender might be, yet it also radiated genuine joy. I inquired if she recognized anyone who could have sent them. She shrugged and confessed her ignorance. I chose to drop the matter. Perhaps they were from a friend or colleague, considering it was her birthday. However, a few days later, I detected an unfamiliar fragrance emanating from her side of our bedroom. Initially, I remained silent, observing instead. Over time, I realized that the scent originated from something luxurious and uncommon in her room. On an evening while she was showering, I peeked into her nightstand cabinet and discovered a new perfume bottle that I hadn't seen before. No bill, no packaging, no previous mention to me. She had shown me every other gift she received that week: chocolates from her sister, a gift card from a coworker, a book from her mother. She talked about all of them except this one. I returned the bottle to its original place and closed the cabinet. For 5 years straight, we've been monitoring our finances, saving any excess for the mortgage. That bottle cost more than our weekly groceries. It appeared someone was sending my wife gifts she hadn't told me about. A couple of weeks after her birthday, Megan left her car at the mechanic overnight due to some brake issue. She mentioned it the night before and asked if I could drive her to work the next day. The rain was heavy the following morning, one of those Houston downpours where you can barely see 10 feet ahead. We were by the front door, her carrying a bag, me with keys, when a car stopped at the curb. We looked. Neither had summoned anyone. Megan stepped onto the porch for a better view. The driver called out her name from the window. It was not a query, just her name, suggesting he knew the destination. She glanced at me briefly. Then she said she'd handle it. There was no need to worry. She'd see me later. I watched as she got into the vehicle. That evening, I inquired about it. She mentioned it might be someone from work being considerate due to the rain. She seemed casual, as if anonymous taxis visited her home frequently. I didn't press, but my attention was now fully on her words, and they didn't align with her actions. She appeared composed, not distressed by an unknown person knowing her address. She displayed the same demeanor as with the roses, unfazed, almost content, much like someone accustomed to receiving care. I hadn't identified who that person was yet, but I knew she had. On Friday night, Megan casually mentioned that she needed to go to the office on Saturday due to an urgent matter, and it wasn't something she expected anyone to challenge. I simply nodded and said all right. She seldom visited during weekends, so in 5 years I could probably count those Saturdays on one hand. As soon as she spoke of her plans, a light bulb went off in my head. I didn't ask any questions. I merely listened, agreed, and began thinking. Around noon on Saturday, I drove over to her office. On the way, I stopped to grab lunch for her from her favorite sandwich shop on Kirby Street. My purpose was clear: being considerate and bringing my wife a meal during her long workday. The parking lot had several cars in it, hers included. Approached the entryway. Her office room's door remained shut, no signs of activity within. I phoned her from the parking lot, inquired about her estimated arrival time for dinner. She mentioned she had a couple more hours left at work, not to worry about preparing dinner. Her tone was relaxed, entirely ordinary. Stepped back towards my truck and circled the corner, parked in a spot with a direct view of the exit. Spent around 2 hours waiting there. Several vehicles arrived and departed. Nothing significant transpired. Then a black vehicle entered the lot and halted near the entrance. Engine running, no one exited. Past quarter of an hour. Subsequently, the driver's door swung open and a man emerged. He moved to the front of the car, allowing me a glimpse of his face. Seemed vaguely recognizable. Recalled seeing him in another context, but couldn't recall where right away. He proceeded towards the passenger side and opened the door. Megan stepped out. Standing beside the car for a brief moment, they were there. He grasped her hand. Their gazes interlocked as if no one else was present. Then it struck me he was Julian Vance, her former boyfriend, the one she abandoned years ago in favor of me. I'd glimpsed his image somewhere, perhaps on social media or a business article. A face often found in financial news. Although aged and heavier, it was undeniably him. Sitting in the driver's seat with trembling hands on the wheel, my recent events fell into neat alignment. The roses, the unmentioned perfume, the taxi at her ring, that Saturday at the office, everything traced back to him. When I dialed the phone, my hands shook. I took photos of them through the windshield as clearly as possible. Two figures standing together, his hand holding hers. It was enough for me. Reversing the truck, I left the spot and headed home. Megan arrived about 30 minutes later. She entered, left her bag near the door, expressing fatigue from a lengthy day with much to handle. Directly headed towards the bedroom. I settled at the kitchen table, keyboarding his name in the search bar, Julian Vance. Rapid results appeared. A managing partner of a mid-sized hedge fund situated in Houston. Amassed fortune from equities trading during the early 30s and constructed the fund afterwards. His spouse was the daughter of a distinguished Texas investor. Ancestral wealth, influential connections. They were parents to 2 children. His firm's website displayed a polished professional bio, an image of him in formal attire, and a rundown of his sectors of operation. I gazed at his photo for a brief spell. The same man who had moments ago gripped my wife's hand in the parking lot. By all indications, he possessed far more than me. Newer vehicle, larger office. Money that could unlock doors I'd never even approached. 5 years of stringent budgeting and home payments. That encapsulated my existence. His lifestyle bore no resemblance to it. In the moment, nothing else mattered. What truly mattered was this. His wife was the offspring of a highly influential investor in Texas. If she discovered he had been involved with another woman for the past 6 months, it wouldn't just be an end to their relationship. She would dismantle him. Financial records could be exposed during court proceedings. News of such scandal would reach his investors. No fund manager desires to find themselves at the center of such a story. That night, I went to our bedroom to discuss this with her. Before entering, I pocketed my phone, activated the voice memo app, and hid it. I maintained a calm tone. I knew about you and Julian. I had seen you together outside your office today. Tell me the truth. Was he the one who sent the roses, the taxi in the rain? Are you seeing him? Megan looked at me without hesitation or flinch. Yes, we've been together for 6 months. I'm tired of worrying about every penny, watching every expense because of this mortgage. I want nice things. I desire genuine living. If you can't provide that, why should I refuse an offer from another? She spoke bluntly, challenging me as if inviting defiance. It seemed she had already made up her mind about my inaction. I stood, listening attentively to her words, remaining silent and not disputing. When she finished, I simply nodded and departed. In the kitchen, I settled down and retrieved my phone from my pocket. I ceased the recording and replayed the initial moments. Her voice rang out distinctly and precisely. Every word was heard. I already possessed photographs from the parking lot. Now I had something far different, her own words, spoken in her own tone, detailing precisely what had transpired and for how long. She spoke without duress, without me coercing her. She freely offered every detail. She believed she would fell me with that conversation. She thought my silence indicated defeat. She was mistaken. The following day, I navigated to Julian's Fund's website, where I found the downtown Houston office address in Financial District. Calling their main number, I informed the receptionist that I was a prospective investor interested in a substantial investment, seeking an appointment with Mr. Vance directly. After a brief pause, she proposed a meeting at the week's end. Agreeing, I found the arrangement suitable. For the subsequent days, Megan and I moved about our home as if unfamiliar, exchanging neither arguments nor words on the matter. She appeared content in the silence, seemingly relieved and composed. It seemed to me that she believed I was too weakened to act, that I'd absorb it, fall silent, and eventually accept the circumstances. On Friday morning, wearing a coat, I ventured downtown. The receptionist guided me to his office on the 14th floor. Upon entering, Julian looked up from his desk. Recognizing me, his countenance shifted entirely, frowning and leaning back. "Why are you here?" you questioned, to which I responded by revealing, "To discuss a significant deal, Julian," as I moved towards the chair opposite you without prior invitation. You observed me sitting down, arms folded, expression guarded, a look typically employed to cut off conversations before they begin. I set my phone on the desk in front of you and hit play. The room filled with Megan's voice. "Yes, we have been together for 6 months. I'm tired of monitoring every penny." "Why wouldn't I accept what someone else is offering?" Your expression shifted as soon as you heard her voice. All the composure and air of superiority you had entered the meeting with vanished, leaving you looking pale and fixed on the phone without moving. For a few moments, Julian sat still, just staring at the phone. Then he slowly raised his eyes to me. "What do you want?" You spoke in a rough, strained voice. I looked back at you calmly. "I didn't come here to bargain, Julian." I arrived for you to comprehend what transpires next. My legal representative is currently drafting the divorce petition. It won't be long before your spouse discovers everything on her own. You might want to start figuring out the financial implications." His expression changed as he attempted another tactic, claiming the recording was unauthorized and wouldn't stand up in court, mentioning my outdated car and mortgage struggles, and hinting at his ability to outlast any conflict I instigated. He seemed accustomed to people capitulating when he presented the financial details. I remained silent. He waited for a response. When none was forthcoming, his demeanor changed dramatically. He suggested we could settle this immediately, discreetly, with no need for further parties involved. He proposed a sum. I rose from my seat. "I didn't come here for that," I said, and headed for the door. I descended in the elevator to the lobby, exited onto the street, and drove home. A few days afterwards, Megan returned home from work, entered the living room, and placed a folder on the table before me without uttering a word. I opened it to find a divorce agreement. The conditions were clear. The house was mine, solely in my possession, and the remaining mortgage would be paid off in full. Scanning through the initial pages, I looked up at her. "You're settling the mortgage debt, but where is that money coming from?" She hesitated for a moment before speaking softly, avoiding eye contact. "Julian is covering it. He stated he wouldn't jeopardize his family and his business over this." She turned away her gaze. "Simply sign the documents." She didn't elaborate further. The message was clear to me. Julian had chosen the option requiring the least sacrifice. A check was more cost-effective than a divorce from a woman whose father could potentially damage his professional career. Less expensive than months of financial records falling into the hands of opposing lawyers. More affordable than news reaching his investors. I meticulously scrutinized the remaining documents. Each detail was correctly drafted, each line neatly arranged. Megan stayed by the entrance throughout, observing me read. She appeared like someone anticipating a verdict they were confident had been decided. I picked up the pen and signed every page where indicated. She took the file without uttering a word, grabbed her keys, and exited. The house was still afterwards, totally silent. A few days later, my lawyer called to verify the funds had been transferred. Later that day, the bank notified me via text message. Remaining mortgage balance nil. I sat at the kitchen table and reread that line several times. 5 years of austere budgeting. 5 years of monitoring every penny, sacrificing desired items, putting all we possessed toward that figure. And now it was no more, not as I had intended. In an unexpected turn of events, Megan was gone. Divorce proceedings wrapped up swiftly thereafter, and over the span of a week she gathered her belongings and departed. I opted not to inquire about her destination. She remained silent on the matter. A friend filled us in several weeks later that she had taken up residence with her mother across town. I chose to let it be. On the night Megan transported her last boxes, I sealed the front door and stood in the hallway for a while. The dwelling was still, entirely mine now, without encumbrance or looming obligations. Come Monday morning, I resumed my work routine. Life continued its course. What were your thoughts on this tale? Dan had lost a spouse but ended up with a mortgage-free house and a life devoid of falsehoods. Some might deem that a loss. Dan likely wouldn't concur. Considering his situation, would you have acted similarly? Share your views below. Don't forget to subscribe for additional stories.